One of the first things that comes to mind when I hear the term shmup is the incredible amount of bullets that take up the screen. From the perspective of someone who has never seen these types of games before, I can imagine that a lot of the patterns look as if they're impossible to dodge. Well, you might still feel that way even if you are familiar with this genre. The reason shmups can get away with such displays is because the actual hitboxes of both bullet and character are much smaller than you think, with the way for a hit to register being colliding with the center of your character. Bullet density in these games means a lot of patterns will have you grazing your hitbox alongside bullets in order to properly dodge them. In fact, that grazing is oftentimes an important factor for scoring, and sometimes for obtaining extra resources. I can't speak for every shmup in existence, but at least everything I mentioned so far does apply to Touhou. When attempting to beat a shmup, it goes without saying that you want to avoid getting hit entirely. But what if you wanted to take it a step further? To finish a game without so much as grazing even a single bullet? Well, that's what I decided to try recently, and I'm here to talk about how exactly that decision went. So here it is, my attempt at completing a Touhou game without grazing. To start off, I should explain why I chose the game I did. I went with Touhou Komakyo, the embodiment of Scarlet Devil, for a few reasons. The first reason is that EOSD has a graze counter, so you can tell immediately if you've grazed. The second is because EOSD is one of 4 Windows games that you can increase your starting lives, and the only one where you can increase your starting bombs. The third reason is that EOSD's easy mode only has 5 stages you have to play through. Now you could argue that because this easy mode auto gives a bad end that it doesn't really count as completion, but a bad ending is still an ending. The only real restriction I had was that the run had to be a 1cc. The first reason for this is because I wanted a replay, and you can't save one if you use a continue. The second is due to continues resetting your score. What this means is with 3 continues to use, you would only have to be 2 stages grazeless. Then use a continue at the end of the next 3, so the final stage score counts your graze as 0. This second reason is pretty whack, I know, but I'm just covering my bases. It was mostly just for getting a replay. So the game and difficulty have been decided, all that's left is the character. Reimu and Marissa are the only choices here, and in EOSD, both characters have the same hitbox, so I chose based on the bomb, which means I'm going with Marissa B for her trademark Master Spark. Master Spark is long-lasting and pretty strong. It's the I don't want to do this spell card button in a lot of cases. To recap, I'll be doing EOSD Easy Mode as Marissa B, starting with 5 lives and 3 bombs per life. To start out, I decided to do a full run without using a bomb to see how it would go. Here are the results. It started pretty well, but things went downhill pretty quick. After that, it was time to practice. The Universal Practice Patch came very handy here, as it allowed me to practice all the different stage sections without having to replay everything before it. The main thing I wanted to do was to knock down every individual stage to 0 graze, so I practiced every section starting with stage 2 to see what could be done without bombing. Since stage 1 had gone so well on the first run, I skipped it, and with stage 2, it wasn't until the boss where the first roadblock happened. Turns out, lasers have massive graze boxes, and with the way Cherno fires them at you, squeezing between them flawlessly was near impossible. I gave it a lot of attempts, but I could barely get through one wave, so this became the first required bomb. And then I learned something else. Bombs are very good at getting through spell cards, but the damage they do to non-spells is not nearly as good. I couldn't get a single clear in that didn't require 2 bombs minimum, but other than that, everything else was doable. Stage 3 wouldn't have any blocks until the mid-boss. Mailing shoots a single slow-moving ring that, even at max distance, can't be squeezed through, so a bomb is needed here. Immediately after, her spell card presents a similar issue. Tight squeeze required, so another bomb is mandatory. Everything after that up to the boss is doable, and then the same story as the mid-boss will happen right away for the main boss. Funny enough, this opener is the only attack boss Mailing has that requires a bomb, as everything else can be cleared or timed out. Stage 4 is the first instance of a stage portion requiring a bomb, and unsurprisingly, it's when the books show up. Master Spark can't destroy all of them, but it can stall them out if you wait a bit before using it. Immediately after, the mid-boss will show up, and will also require a bomb, as the donut bullets she shoots can't be squeezed through, and following the lanes will become a problem when the kunai start flying. Remember the bit about lasers? Well, the boss here has 2 attacks that require you to deal with them. The first 2 nons are roughly the same, but I was unable to get through the opening one without a bomb. The first spell card looks like you can sit behind Patchouli, but if you try that, you get shot at. It might be possible without a bomb, but I couldn't manage. That said, I did manage to time out the final spell card once, so that's neat. Stage 5 has a section before the mid-boss where 3 sets of 2 fairies come down and shoot. I couldn't stop them, and the section following it would be rough, so I opted to just bomb it. For the mid-boss, the Sakuya Sprinkler can be timed out, and doing so will skip a good chunk of the stage, and this section is just bullet spam, so it saves quite a few bombs. This section becomes doable with only 2 bombs when the mid is timed out. Boss Sakuya is basically going to require 1 bomb per attack, so 6 total. However, the second spell card is capturable with good luck. So that's an abridged explanation of individual practice, and I came to a theoretical 0 Graze run that required a minimum of 17 bombs. Sounds good to go? Absolutely not. There are a number of sections that are indeed possible, but the luck required for them is pretty high, and it all has to go right in a run starting from stage 1, and if I was that lucky, I'd be speedrunning Minecraft. It was certainly neat to see just how much could be done without using bombs, but there's no way a human would pull it off, so I went back to practice again, and this time with the intention of finding which of these luck-based sections could be made consistent with 1 bomb. I'll spare you the details on this session, because it was pointless, unless the bomb count matched what it would be in a real run. Fortunately, the UPP allows for setting your resources, so I could practice each section keeping my resources to how they'd be in a real attempt. And this is where another potential problem arose. I'm starting with 5 lives and 3 bombs. In easy mode, there are 2 bomb drops in a run, totaling 5. The only other way to get bombs is to get hit and reset to your default. The immediate issue is that getting hit seems impossible, as any bullet that does hit you has to have been close enough to graze you, so you'd have to do this with 1 life, meaning you have 5 bombs total for the entire run. Thankfully, there is a workaround to this issue. I said it seemed impossible to get hit because it would require a bullet, but bullets aren't the only thing in the game that can hit you. All enemies have hitboxes that can kill the player too, and since they don't count as bullets, they wouldn't do anything for your graze. Crashing into enemies to refill bombs became a viable method, and counting the starting lives and the drop lives from stage 3 and 5, as well as the 2 bomb drops, you'll have 23 bombs total. So with this new info, I started anew to find which areas I would need to use a bomb, and which areas were safe to take a death to refill my bombs. This actually opened up another method that can be used to make certain parts easier, the full power clear. In earlier games, obtaining max power, which is 128, would clear the screen of bullets, and specifically in EOSD, 127 power offers the same, well, power, so you don't have to sacrifice any damage if you want to hold to clear certain sections. So after running through everything again, I managed to reach the final spell card in stage 5. Except I had run out of lives and bombs. Thing is, because of the method I used for the stage 5 mid, you end up skipping the extra life. I still think this is the better option, as 1 life is equal to 3 bombs, and you would end up spending more than you would get with beating the mid boss and dealing with the section afterwards. And given how that section works, it's difficult to get a refill without accidentally grazing. The plan then was to find a place to save a single bomb, which doesn't sound that hard, but the issue that arose from it is that certain sections require back-to-back bombs to be done, as Marissa moves very slow while Master Spark is active, and getting into position to crash for a refill just isn't happening. An example of this is with the books section in stage 4, as you need a bomb for the books and Kwakama, but you can't get a refill between them, so you need to have 2 for this specific section. Fortunately for me, I didn't have to do this, as the reason for my missing bomb was simply because I forgot to factor in the score extends in practice. EOSD rewards extra lives at certain scores. The important ones here are the lives at 10 million and 20 million. One replaces the missed life in stage 5, and the other is an extra 3 bombs. 20 million sounds like a lot, but as long as you're not actively dodging points, you'll hit that requirement. And you won't even need those extra bombs until the very end either. Not only did that give the bomb needed to end the game, it gave an extra 2, totaling up to 26 bombs, assuming you time out the stage 5 mid. So finally, I had a route that seemed viable. Marissa B with 26 bombs, and with that I started attempting full runs. This is the part where my decision to ignore stage 1 came back to bite me. The stage itself isn't an issue in the slightest. However, it turned out that my initial attempt getting 0 graze was a fluke. Rumia has a variety of simple attacks to dodge. The thing is that they are all aimed at you to a degree. She always opens with the same attacks, then chooses another. She will never pick the same option twice, and 2 attacks are done while moving, and the others after she stops. I learned all of this due to how many times I ended up losing a run because of the attack she chose. The green wave can sometimes just wall you, and if it does, that's it. You can try to direct it off screen, but depending on Rumia's next attack, that's another end. The green circle attack is aimed too, which means if you're moving when it happens, you create another lose situation. Every run takes 2 minutes to reach Rumia. Then there was always a chance you'd have to restart. It got to a point where I would just bomb to get runs further in, but all that did was make later sections harder, so it wasn't worth it. At the very least, it's early on for resetting, but I never expected a Stage 1 boss on easy mode to gatekeep me so hard. Stage 2 is basically the same, in that you get through the whole thing, then get clipped at the end and lose. The second non kept hitting me before I could get a bomb out, even when I tried to just unload on Chirno. So few runs got to Stage 3, and there the last bit of the stage was RNG, as well as Mei Ling's boss opener. Even fewer reached Stage 4, and this stage was already a pain. There are sections where fairies come down that clear the screen when shot down, but I swear whether or not I got through it was dependent on if the laser was active on them. Aside from that, a section with fairies creating lasers happens after the mid, and those lasers are massive like Chirno's, and at least one of the 3 sets has to be dodged. Even after all that, Patchouli and her lasers require her to give you good movement to get through them, as the lasers are big grays and the third set is homing shots that you are going to have to bomb through. The final spell card isn't cleared with just 1 bomb either, so when you get to this part, you need to do some damage prior and after bombing. I got to Stage 5 on pace about 3 times total, and each one was lost to RNG in the opening section. Even without that, the timeout strategy on the mid isn't foolproof. Sakuya can come up real high, and you'll have to be opposite of where she starts throwing the blue knives. There is a chance that she moves so far up that this doesn't work, but I only ever saw it happen twice. The overall stage is difficult, and the boss is mean. You're using a bomb on everything, but a bad pattern on the nons can result in a run-ending graze. So this was the route I decided on, and after many hours of failure and frustration, I was losing hope. I went back to practice a lot to iron things out, and tried a variety of things on the parts that kept ruining runs. It did pay out, making Stage 2 completely consistent, and removing almost everything from Stage 3. Stage 4 and 5 were still difficult, and any run that got that far also made me nervous, so that certainly didn't help. Well, I had my improved route, so I went back to attempts, but with the frustration of previous attempts building up, I decided to stream these runs. Within 2 hours, and by some miracle, everything had lined up. After hours of testing, practice, and attempts, I finally got a run that finished, with 2 grays. The recent route I came up with had gotten this close, so it only needed a little more. Turns out lightning can strike the same place twice, because the next run to come was finally what I had set out to do. A 0 grays 1cc of EOSD had been done. So how did I do it? There was a lot of info scattered throughout this video on things I tried or specific problem points. But what does the perfect run look like? An EOSD easy mode run takes roughly 20 minutes to complete. But in the interest of time, I'll be skipping around the early game, as there's a lot of downtime where nothing happens. If you're interested in watching it yourself, I'll put the VOD as well as the replay down below. Now, without further ado, here it is. Stage 1 has very little happening, it's just shooting and trying to grab some power. The mid-boss movement is the same, with the 4th attack being slightly random. You'll likely take her out by the 5th attack. The second half of the stage isn't that much different from the first, and I kinda already went over how the boss's nons work, so I'll just jump to the spell card. Demarcation has wide gaps to go through. Just don't go too far or the homing shots will pin you. Stage 2 is actually easier than Stage 1, as there is no RNG here that can ruin a run. The first half doesn't even shoot at you, so you just move back and forth and collect the dropping P. The mid-boss leaves big gaps to dodge, and the 3rd attack is easy to widestream. Be sure to grab the bomb she drops here. The second half of the stage is similar to the first. There are some fairies that come down to shoot, but if you follow their spawn position, you can stop them before they shoot. Chirno's first non can be misdirected. She does move around, but the idea is the same each time. Icicle Fall Easy is pretty well known for its safe spot in front of Chirno, but you can clip a graze. Putting your orbiters on her feet is consistent. Non 2 gave me a lot of trouble before, but if you time your Master Spark after the 8th shot, it'll sync up to the lasers. This will take 3 bombs. You might notice that I continue to follow the boss even with Master Spark active. This is because even though I can't shoot during it, if I had lasers active when I used it, they will remain active and do extra damage. The extra bomb Daiusei gives you will go through perfect freeze with no RNG at all. Stage 3 will start by moving near the top and crashing into the enemy to refill your bombs. I opt for 127 power to make a later section better, but it isn't required. The first half is just some streaming, as well as taking out certain fairies to reduce bullet density. Basically a lot of moving left to right. Even if you don't do this properly, there's a good amount of room to navigate anyways. The mid-boss non will require a bomb, but you also have to dodge at least one of the blue spews. I opt for the opening one just to get it over with. Gorgeous Sweet Flower has slight variations, but nothing that a single bomb doesn't get you through. You want to pick a side to stop the blue kunai fairies. You can do a full power clear here to remove the extra. The next section is white spam that you'll want to follow spawn positions to remove as much spew as possible. Then double back doing the same, but prioritizing the blue kunai fairies that will show up behind them to avoid losing space to dodge the white spew. Also be careful not to get tackled by the enemies that come from the side. This section is still a little random, and you can try to full power clear here instead if you want. For the last section, pick a side and take out the fairy that comes down. Then take out the fairy closest to the corner, then move into the top corner and you should be perfectly safe. The boss opener will need to be bombed pretty early, but be careful as depending on the pattern, some of the bullets will escape the bomb clear. Once the bomb is finished, give Mei-Ling a hug to death cancel the next wave, and that should move you to the first spell card. Rainbow Wind Chime can be consistently timed out by spinning around her. Just be sure to move correctly when the pattern rotates. I avoid getting full power here to save it for the next attack. This one, you'll just want a bomb and it will take out all the fairies. Then it's just dodging the few bullets Mei-Ling shoots. The next non can be partially skipped if you wait before grabbing the P. This is better if Mei-Ling is high up the screen. After the clear, use your bomb and follow her, and you should do enough damage to clear it before the end of the second cycle. Colorful Rain is as simple as a bomb. I should mention to always get as much damage as possible before bombing to ensure that you won't have to do much after it ends. Stage 4 is where movement gets a lot more strict. Right away you want to crash into a fairy to refill bombs and clear the screen. After that you pick a side and stream back and forth until the next set of fairies shows up. These fairies will always drop Big P, so you can full power clear. More streaming until the next set of fairies comes down. These fairies cause screen clears when they're taken out. And while it seems like they would be the same outcome every time, I feel like your laser being active is the deciding factor. More streaming until the books appear. Wait as long as you can to bomb, as doing so will result in the section ending before you're in any real danger. Kawakama zooms in after and starts shooting. You can follow at least one lane, but you can also just bomb her right away. Just be wary of the kunai that will escape, and do not miss the bomb pickup. After the 3 sets of freebies, you want to stream again. But this time, as soon as the shooting stops, move to the end of the screen and try to shoot down the fairies before they fire. They create lasers where they spawn, and as you already know, lasers are big graze boxes, all the while avoiding the book's homing. This section has 3 sets, and a bomb will get you through 2 of them, so I prefer to dodge the first wave, as I think it's easier to get into a good position. Afterwards, start left and take out the fairy that causes the screen clear. Normally, I stream away after taking them out, but I messed it up and it worked out anyways. Then do the same on the right. The next section is the same every time, but sometimes the enemies can get some shots in. Final section is screen clear fairies, and like the first section, a cooperative laser might be the only thing getting you through it. The hardest part of the boss is the nons, as it's lasers. The lasers are the same every time, but the shots are aimed at you and Pachuli's movement is random, so you want to make sure you're in the widest lane between lasers to dodge everything. You'll want to bomb on the 3rd set of lasers, as if Pachuli's movement was nice, that should squeeze you through. Afterwards, wait a spell, then give her a hug. This will refill your bombs and stop the first wave of lasers. Dodge the next set like normal, and bomb to avoid the 3rd. And again, if things went right, you should be through the worst of it. Lazy Triathlon, as I already mentioned, can't be cheesed, but it's really slow, so just holding your bomb until it gets close will get you through it. Emerald Megalith is the most important spell card to use a bomb on while your lasers are active, as if Patchy decides she hates you, she'll force you against the wall while running away. Stage 5 shouldn't be as bad as it is considering you use 9 bombs on it, but life finds a way. Start at the top and take out one of the fairies, then move backwards to create a clear path through the other fairy's bullets. The red fairy shots are random, and the ones that come in from the corners are aimed. After that section, take a death to clear and refill. Take advantage of a full power clear here, and hope you have good luck. Next, 3 sets of 2 fairies come down and fire. Wait for the 3rd set to appear to bomb, as the bomb will bleed into the next section. While the bomb is going, head right, then middle, to take out the fairies before they shoot too much. Mid boss is timed out, and again there is a chance you just lose here, so hope for the best. Timing out the mid will skip a lot of the spam, so you'll only need 2 bombs. Hold on to the second as long as possible to skip most of the following section. The last part starts near the middle to aim the bullets while also shooting to create P. Tackle a fairy to your side and quickly grab full power. The boss's first non is tight with 1 bomb, as well as luck dependent, so having full power here is good. Hold out and hope you don't get bad luck this far in. Thankfully, every spell card is exactly the same to handle. Some shooting, then a bomb will get you through all 3 of them. Non 2 is like the first, and if you're lucky, Sakuya will be at the top of the screen from Clock Corpse, giving you more time to shoot. Hug Sakuya before Luna Clock starts to refill bombs, then same deal as before. Third non can use a full power clear here, assuming the P and Sakuya's position are nice. Then it's another case of hold then bomb. Finally at the end with Manipulating Doll, shoot and use your final bomb to finish off this stupid run. There you go, a no graze run of a Touhou game. And I know what you're thinking, why? Well, somebody asked. Going into this, I expected it wouldn't take that much time at all, and was considering making the video about every entry in the series. While this clearly isn't what happened, I did end up looking into this type of run, and actually found a video of someone doing this for Imperishable Night. So that confirms this is at least possible for 2 of the games. I'll leave a link to the IN video below. So was it worth it? To be honest, I had a lot of fun with the practice, figuring out what could be done without bombs, as well as where to use full power clears and the best spots to refill bombs. As for the run itself, it very quickly became nothing but a ball of frustration. I couldn't remove every aspect of RNG from the run, and so many spots in stage 4 and 5 can just cause a reset because you weren't lucky. Not to mention how many times you end up having to reset because Rumia didn't play nice. Trying to get everything to go perfectly was really rough, and the worst part about it doesn't even look impressive. This run is a bunch of wide dodges through barely any bullets and a ton of bomb spam. The only reason I even completed this is because the sunk cost fallacy is a very real thing. I wouldn't recommend anyone try this themselves, but if you're really that bored, then by all means, give it a go. I will say though, that doing this did make me interested in if it's possible for other games, or at the very least, what the lowest possible graze is if no graze is impossible. I doubt I'm going to be the guy who tries, but who knows what the future holds. For now though, I'm going back to practicing Lunatic, so I can stress about dodging hundreds of bullets, instead of sweating bullets just trying to correctly dodge 1. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you during the next incident.